Welcome to Caffeinated Flicks. I'm Celeste.
And I'm Kenzie. We're two chicks who drink coffee
and celebrate flicks from diverse directors.
If you like what you're hearing so far, take a moment to follow us in your favorite podcasting app.
And give us a rating or review. Here's the show.
Today for Caffeinated Flicks, we have a wonderful special guest who is an extremely professional podcaster who has had many years in podcasting. You have Bridget Todd, who is the founder of Unbossed Creative, an organization creating award-winning audio and digital content that moves the needle on social issues. Bridget got her start teaching courses on writing and social change at Howard University. Since then, she's trained human rights activists in Australia, which at some point in time, I need to dig into that because I adore Australia, as Celeste can tell you. And she's also coordinated digital strategy for organizations like Planned Parenthood, the Women's March, and MSNBC, and ran a training program for political operatives that the Washington Post called the Democratic Party's Hogwarts for Digital Wizardry. You can now hear Bridget on her critically acclaimed podcast, There Are No Girls on the Internet, and her current focus is digital activism in disinformation. She's worked in a coalition that created resources to help identify and combat disinformation ahead of the 2020 election. And then she actually started her podcasting career as a producer for MoveOn.org's flagship podcast in 2012. She also co-hosted, which is how I found out about her, on iHeartMedia's Stuff Mom Never Told You, bringing feminist issues and activists to 2 million ears per month. She also teamed up with the culture and arts brand Afropunk to host a global salon where she talks to high-profile activists and creatives like Ava DuVernay, who we actually covered one of her movies, and the Me Too creator, Tarana Burke. So thank you so much, Bridget, for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for that lovely welcome. I gotta shorten my bio. I was like, I gotta shorten this, but what a warm welcome. I am so excited to be here. And thank you for listening to Stuff Mom Never Told You.
Yes. I started listening to that, I want to say in like 2016 or 2017. And so I used to listen to you and Annie and Caroline, and I followed you all basically since each one of you has moved on from Stuff Mom Never Told You and beyond. So I'm going to try not to fangirl.
I fangirl over the current hosts, Annie and Sam, who are amazing. The former hosts, Kristen and Caroline, like, it has been such an interesting legacy. They're all such talented, dynamic podcasters. So I fangirl when I'm around them.
Yes, absolutely. And Kristen and Caroline with their other media company, Unladylike. So absolutely love what each of you is doing. And Annie's Forkful with Lauren. So there's just so much to podcasting that allows for so much crossover.
It is one of the fun things about the medium. And like, it's just really cool. Like, you all are podcasters. So it's cool to be like listener / appreciator podcaster / podcasters on your own. Like, it's just a really interesting space.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're so happy to have you on today. We will get started with what's keeping you caffeinated today, Bridget.
Well, right now I just have water, which is the most important answer. I had a lovely cup of Earl Grey tea. I had multiple coffees, which is probably too many. So the name of this podcast is apt because I'm very caffeinated.
We love it. Oh my gosh. Yes. So I don't know if you are aware of this, but so part of the reason why we've started this is because Celeste and I met while we were both Starbucks baristas. We've been friends for, I think, 8 years now, and we've been away from Starbucks for quite a few years now, but we have loved coffee and teas and everything ever since.
So first of all, I see you rocking the Starbucks mug. So
yes.
You still repping Starbucks. I love Starbucks. I have so many questions. If I start, we'll be here all day just talking about your Starbucks memories. Because I was a Starbucks barista for Halloween in high school. Like, you know what?
No.
You get to dress up. I dressed up as a Starbucks.
I still have my aprons. Do you still have your aprons, Celeste?
Oh no, I threw those away. I got rid of them.
So I'm currently in Oregon, and I was dog sitting for my friend who I also met at Starbucks as well. And so she still has some of her aprons, and this is actually her Starbucks mug. But yeah, it's just so funny how Starbucks has brought us all together.
Yeah.
It's
Been
this like
amazing.
the universal connector, caffeine.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. And even if like you don't drink alcohol or anything like that, which a lot of people use as like a social interaction, like you can meet up and have coffee, and it's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different setting. So Celeste, what are you caffeinating with today?
So I've been trying to cut back on my caffeine actually. But today I did treat myself to a little honey sweetened matcha. And that was delicious.
Ooh,
So
that sounds good.
from Union Coffee. So at their local place out here in Arizona.
Okay.
So that is what I treated myself
Love
to
that.
today. What did you
Well,
have?
can't go wrong. So earlier have you ever had a hemp latte made with hemp milk?
I've heard of it, but no.
Yeah. So there's a roastery out here called Rogue Roastery, because out in Grants Pass, where I'm staying right now, there's the Rogue River. So they've got Rogue Roastery, and they roast all their own beans and whatnot, but they also offer like this hemp latte. And so I got that, and it's got like a little bit of like blackberry and some other flavors in it that I can't remember. But it was very tasty. And now my friend Bethany, shout out to Bethany, who occasionally listens to this, she brought me an Americano with steamed coconut almond milk and some cinnamon sugar on top of it, is what she told me. So I was like, you are too sweet. Thank you so much.
You all are very serious about your beverages. Like
Mhm.
I was like, ooh, honey sweetened matcha. Wow. Hemp milk. I appreciate it.
Yes, Kenzie's drinks are always so elaborate and exotic sounding. Like very this, espresso that. I'm like, ooh. Yeah.
Always. Sometimes it's just nice coffee, I promise.
Yeah.
Like it's not always just super elaborate, but I like to bring some variety to our show. I like to let people learn like what the possibilities are with coffee. And so I'm a very big advocate for that.
Well, I was going to ask, because you're recording the podcast and you're going to ask each other about your beverages, do you then go out of your way to have a elaborate beverage so you can talk about it on the show?
Sometimes, yeah. Mhm. Sometimes if Celeste and I are recording together, we'll go to
We'll
the
go to
same
like a new
place.
spot.
Yeah.
It's a good way to try new different spots too.
Yeah.
Should we get into our movie today, Celeste?
Yes, let's do it. So today's film is A League of Their Own, 1992. It is directed by the late Penny Marshall. So Penny was born October 15th, 1943. So she is a Libra. I don't know if you're into astrology, Bridget. Kenzie
I am.
is, so.
Yes.
It makes sense that Penny Marshall is a Libra, I feel. Or was a
Yeah.
Libra. Oh, rest in peace.
I know. But yeah, she had such a great, like, I don't know, moral compass, like type of a thing going on with her. So that's very Libra when you think about the scales.
I'm not. So all of this is
Word for it.
yeah.
This is
what
my
did you say?
ambition. Ironically enough, so Celeste and I, our birthdays are also 3 days apart. So we're both
Yeah.
Aquariuses. And we're very different Aquariuses.
Wait,
But that is iconic for
They're so
Aquariuses.
It's like you all were met. It's like having a podcast together was destined in the stars for you two.
Yes.
We have some
Don't mind me, I'm very
similarities, but like we always realize we learn about our differences all the time. Sometimes we're like, how are we friends? Like,
but we still love and appreciate each other for it. So very appreciative of her.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So Penny was born in New York City, New York. And unfortunately, sadly, she did pass December 17th of 2018. She was the daughter of Marjorie Ward, a tap dance teacher, and Anthony Marshall, an industrial film director. So she comes from a family of the arts.
Wow.
She attended a private girls' high school in New York and then went to the University of New Mexico for 2.5 years. What I wonder is, how does that happen? How do you go from New York to New Mexico?
Story there.
Right? Not to like dig on New Mexico, but you know.
It reminds me
There's gonna be
of
a story there.
10 Things I Hate About You, when Kat wants to go to Sarah Lawrence across the country from Seattle. So I'm like, was this a reverse?
Because you can't get too much further from New York and stay in the United States than like New Mexico. It's pretty. It has to have been like also good movie reference. 10 Things I Hate About You.
It's such a good movie. It's one of my favorites.
Same.
I love that movie. So she went there for 2.5 years, and there is where she got pregnant with her daughter, and she worked as a secretary for a while. She started off as an actress. Her film debut came from her brother, who was also a filmmaker, Barry Marshall, who put her in the movie How Sweet It Is from 1968. She acted in several series such as Sam and Cat, Bones. I know you love that show, Kenzie.
I do. I love that one.
And many more. She's also known for directing movies such as Big, starring Tom Hanks, Awakening, starring the late Robin Williams, and Riding in Cars with Boys with Drew Barrymore, which I love that movie.
That might be
She
such a trip.
directed these.
I know.
Like her directing list is like the deep bench.
Yeah. When you think about Big, it's like literally iconic 1980s filmography, like top 10 list usually.
Yep. So she chose to work with Tom again. And then also she was best friends with actress Carrie Fisher and was godmother to Carrie's daughter, Billy.
Oh, that breaks my heart a little bit, but also like makes it warm and fuzzy. I'm like, I loved Carrie Fisher. Yeah, all the feels.
I would love to be a fly on a wall with a conversation between Carrie Fisher and Penny Marshall.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That sounds like so much fun. And especially if you throw Gina Davis in there. Okay. So should we get into the history of the movie, Celeste?
Oh, yeah.
So Bridget, do you have a history with this movie?
I do. I saw it I don't know if I saw it in the theater. I would have been pretty young, but I saw it like when I was a child. I remember loving it. I remember particularly loving the Madonna song because I was a huge Madonna fan. I still am. Yeah, it's also just one of those iconic movies. Like I feel like you would be hard pressed to find somebody who does not have a spiritual connection with this film.
I think there might be that person on this call right now. And it's not me.
Wait, Celeste, tell me more.
What? Oh, I've never seen it. Tell me how.
I don't know if
It's
it's all.
always been like this
surprising.
iconic film, but I had never seen it up until.
Well, everybody has their the things that they like missed.
There's just so many movies out there that, and also when I was younger, I tend to rewatch the same movies over and over again. So
Yeah.
I was bound to miss quite a few.
That is amazing. But yeah, so when I suggested this movie, she's like, oh, I've never seen that. I was like, okay, we're definitely doing this movie. I think you're going to love it. But she's going to have to correct me later on what her feelings were. So, because I run deep with this movie also. Like, I adore this movie. Celeste and I are iconic for not being sports people. Yeah. Ironically enough, like we've done several sports movies and we're like, sport is over my head. And so it's really funny that I absolutely adore this movie. And I think what it is it's just like the time frame of this movie and the direct impact that this movie has had, not only on this generation of people, but the time frame that it's actually based in as well. Like while everybody was away on war at World War II, they brought in the girls' leagues, and it's just such an incredible like homage to that time period. And I absolutely love it. And I love Gina Davis. I'm like a gigantic Gina Davis stan.
Oh, yeah. And even since like her work now with like the Gina Davis Institute, like just when I like going back and rewatching League of Their Own, obviously it's Gina Davis is not Dottie. She's not, but in the movie, her character is like really trying to advocate for women and like pave ways for women. And it's hard for me to separate that from Gina Davis, the person who has done so much of the same thing for women in entertainment and Hollywood. So I just like, I love that so much. And she's such a badass. Like, she's so cool.
She is. Oh my gosh. I love her so much. Like, I love the fact that she's tall too. Like, I know that's a really weird fact. She's like 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing because it doesn't seem to bother her or faze her. She embraces it. She's such a strong person, and I admire her to the end of the earth. Like,
yeah. My favorite Gina Davis role is her in the 80s remake of The Fly, where she's she's wearing this amazing leather miniskirt suit, which like there's something about like tall Gina Davis from the 80s in this like leather black suit is like burned in my brain.
Yeah. So hot, iconic Gina Davis. I have to say my absolute favorite Gina Davis role is Beetlejuice, because Beetlejuice is one of my favorite movies. And for whatever reason, what is his name? I'm trying to remember. The guy who played Adam, whose name escapes me right now.
Alec Baldwin?
That one. Alec Baldwin looks so different in that movie than he does now. So different. Like, he was hot, but he looks
Alec
so
Baldwin
different.
I haven't seen Beetlejuice either.
Oh, God.
I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
It's almost Halloween. It is the perfect
You
time.
have to. We have to make this happen, Celeste. Beetlejuice is iconic. You have to watch it. Like, you would never know that was Michael Keaton, because Michael Keaton is a phenomenal character actor, but also they have so much makeup on him. So,
And also, like, side comment about Gina Davis, totally off topic to her character, but her jawline is so snatched. It is important.
yes.
She looks like she
seriously
came out of the
impressed.
womb gua shaing.
Oh, that was cool.
God, I want that for myself. Alrighty, shall we get into the cast then?
Sounds good.
Alrighty, so of course we've got our lead, Gina Davis. This is kind of like an all-star cast, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible actors. So we've got, of course, Tom Hanks. We've got Lori Petty, Rosie O'Donnell, Madonna. Has she ever acted in anything else?
Yeah, Madonna's done a couple of different movies, specifically from the
okay.
80s and 90s.
Yeah,
Okay.
Evita, she was really known for
Mhm.
that. She was in Swept Away, which people don't like, but I think is an underrated gem. So you heard it here first.
I love it.
I'll have to add that to my list. And then we've got Anne Cusack, we've got Freddie Simpson, Anne Ramsey, Tia Leone, which I've just started watching her show. What is it? The Congresswoman, I think it is.
Oh, woman, lady secretary.
Lady Secretary. Did I just say
Mhm.
Congresswoman? Sorry. Lady Secretary.
I think technically you have to be a congresswoman in order to be a lady secretary, but I could be
yeah.
very wrong. I swear I do follow politics. It's just escaping me with pathways.
I do not. Sorry.
But I don't think I would have known that.
I don't expect. I'm just like, yeah, what she said.
Like, sounds right.
I'm gonna go with it.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so just a stellar cast going on here. A few little just tidbits about the cast. Lori Petty auditioned 8 times for the role of Kit, including once at director Penny Marshall's apartment. So
That's so many times.
I know, they really sent her through the ringer. So, and then Brooke Shields was offered the lead female role, but after the writer's strike in 1988, Shields was written out to be replaced by Deborah Winger. However, Winger also backed out, and the part then went to Gina Davis. So she actually joined the production as a late replacement, literally a few days before filming was due to start. So very last minute. I know.
It's funny because I can't imagine anybody except for who is in the movie at like, who else would be Kit other than Lori Petty? Like, it's I can't imagine this being cast any different. I think it's so perfectly cast.
Same. And then Penny Marshall's daughter is also in this too. She plays Benny Spaghetti. So makes me laugh.
Alrighty. And then did you guys want to go ahead and do the ratings?
Yeah, let's do it. So as our guest, Bridget, would you like to do the 10 out of 10 or would you like to read the 1 out of 10?
Oh, the 1 out of 10 for sure.
I love it. Okay. So I will do the 10 out of 10 then. So 10 out of 10. Wonderful, beautiful, funny, interesting film. This is not just a great sports film. It is one of the best movies of all time. There's a good reason it's been selected by the Library of Congress as a culturally important film. It is moving and funny, exciting and uplifting with terrific music, acting, and directing. If you're a baseball fan, you have to see it. Gina Davis and Tom Hanks are incredible, and the final scene is magic. The story of the 2 sisters competing and the death of a husband and the stories of love, respect, friendship, and redemption, it's all there. Look for Tia Leone at first base and hilarious Madonna. It's a beautiful story and elderly woman spectacularly presented.
1 out of 10. Don't waste your time. I don't understand the high rating of this movie. It's listed as a comedy. It's definitely not. There are no funny moments. This pacing is extremely slow. I found it boring. most of the girls aren't likable, especially Rosie O'Donnell's fake accent. Yeah, I just found it very boring and uninteresting. You really hated this movie.
They did, and oh my. I have a feeling they don't like most movies that feature women specifically based on this review.
Yeah. And my thing is like, no funny moments. What do you call like there's so many funny
There's so many.
being a long key. God, you are truly humorless.
Yes, absolutely. And like, why attack the girls are not likable? Like, as if girls have to be likable all the time.
Right.
My favorite thing, as we've discussed in several of our previous episodes, is a female villain. Like, I love it when somebody's just like horrible.
That woman was so mean.
Like, I Care a Lot, that movie, fantastic.
Oh my God.
Love her so much.
What was the bad review? Was it like,
this
woman should be in prison?
We haven't actually done that one, but I'm just thinking of like female villains.
I have not seen that movie, but it's on my list.
Oh, you have to see it.
Oh, no.
It's so good.
I've heard such amazing things about it.
It's so good.
Yeah, probably my favorite like main character female villain is Young Adult. Have you all seen that? It's that villain is too strong, but it's Charlize Theron at her like least likable. I guess she was a serial killer once, so maybe not.
Like Monster is probably her least likable,
but among her least likable roles.
Yeah,
I remember Young Adult, and I loved that movie.
So good.
It is. Oh my goodness. But that 1 out of 10. It was only 1 out of 3 reviews that I was able to find. It's safe to say that
the majority wins out.
Exactly.
Good.
Perfect. So shall we go ahead and get into the recap?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. So we start off with an elderly Dottie in a suburban home packing. She's glancing at some old black and white photos of her and others when they were younger. Her daughter tosses in her old baseball mitt. They're going back and forth. Dottie's like, I don't want to go. She's like, you got to get out of the house. These were some of your best times. You should go. Basically, her daughter kicks her out. So we're gonna go. She's like, you got to get out of here.
Sometimes it's the best thing to do for somebody is like, I know that this is going to hurt for a little while, but tough love, you're going to thank me later.
Yep. So we've got a bus that pulls into Cooperstown, New York, home of Baseball Village of Museums. She walks into a baseball stadium full of older ladies playing baseball.
Real fun fact about these older ladies. These are the actual women who played baseball in the 1940s during the All-American Girls Baseball League. So these are those actual baseball players.
What a nice detail. I love in movies that are about real people when they sneak in the real person. That's like, love that.
Yes.
Amazing. So Dottie's face just lights up. She's got a reminiscing look on her face. And then we are taken back to a black and white news broadcasting. The baseball players are off to fight in World War II, and there are rumors of shutting the sport down until the boys are back. Mr. Ira Lowenstein has been given the job of figuring out how to keep baseball going. So then we flash over to Willamette. Is it Willamette? Willamette?
I think it's called Willamette, ironically enough.
Never heard of it.
My friend also lives there. Amanda lives in Willamette, and I have tried to figure out how to say it about 13,000 times. So I think it's Willamette.
We'll go with that. So we're in Willamette, Oregon at 1943. A female baseball game is going on, and Kit is up next to bat. There is a scout in the bleachers. Forgot to get his name, but this is like, this guy is hilarious. This actor, he's a very short time in the film, but oh my gosh, he's hilarious. I loved him in Rat Race too.
Yes.
That's my
It's such a good movie.
He's so hilarious. Okay.
That's
John
such
Lovitz.
a like specific. Rat Race 2 is such a specific like. That is a deep cut, and I'm here for it.
I love him in the one episode of Friends that he did, where he was high the entire time.
Love that guy. So he's a scout. He's in the bleachers watching. So Dottie is trying to give Kit some pointers, and she tells her no high ones. She's like, I like the high ones. So they have their little bit. Dottie's like mule. Kit is like nag. That's their little thing. So Kit strikes out. Dottie bats next, and I believe she hits a home run.
She hits it out of the park. Like literally, they can't even go get it and retrieve it. It's over the fences. Like,
yeah. So everybody's cheering. So Dottie is like the hero here. As Kit's walking away, some rando says, "What are you swinging those high ones for? It's a good thing your sisters bailed you out."
so rude.
Very rude. Like
Unnecessary.
heckling a baseball game? Like, what is this?
Yeah. But they have like whole rhymes and songs for heckling baseball players. Like, there's a very common one. Pitcher, not a belly itcher, something or nothing.
That's mean. On their walk home after the game, there's some sisterly tension. Kit feels like she's living in Dottie's shadow because she's beautiful. She even says, like, her parents, when they introduce her to people, they're like, "Oh, this is my daughter Dottie," and then this is Dottie's sister, Kit.
I don't know if either of you have sisters, but this movie made me want to. I have an older brother. It made me want to have a sister because I was like, wow, what a complex relationship these two have. Like, having a brother, our relationship is like fine, but like not, I wouldn't call it complex. And this movie made it seem like having a sister was like, we're in competition, but we love each other. But like, I'm in her shadow and I want to be my own person. Like, it made having a sister seem very complex in a way that I yearned for.
Right. I have two brothers and they're both younger than me. And I'm just like, okay, I can see some of the similarities, but also at the same rate, like nothing even close to it. I always wanted a sister, but I've got like Celeste and Beth and they make up for it in things.
So me, on the other hand, I have no siblings.
Oh.
I guess when I was little, my mom says that I used to make up siblings and lie to people, but
That makes sense.
I think like by junior high and high school, I did not envy my friends who had siblings. I felt so bad for them. For that kind of relationship, I was like, I'm so glad I don't have any brothers and sisters.
I get that.
There are times when you're just like, could you not? Like, seriously.
Yeah, could you not be here? That'd be great.
Yes.
Give me a little break.
Our first episode was Signs, and my brother was terrified of it. So it was my favorite movie, and I put it on anytime that I wanted him to leave my room. So
yeah, swing away and get out of here.
Yes.
That's really good. That's really funny.
It worked beautifully.
Oh my. So the girls live on a farm with their parents. So they're doing their chores, they're milking some cows. And this is where our scout comes in, Ernie Capadino. He comes in, and the first thing he says, he's like, "Doesn't that hurt them?" They're like, "They seem to." He's like, "Well, it bruised the hell out of me." He has some great lines. Very few, but such an amazing great line.
From what I understand, he ad-libbed a lot of them too.
Oh, wow.
Really?
So I think that's one of them.
Oh. So he says, Walter Harvey started a girls' baseball team, tryouts in Chicago, pays $75 a week. They want girls who can not only play ball, but are the dolly type. So they got to look the look too.
Yeah.
Dolly says, no, thank you. And then there's poor Kit. She says that she's ready to go. But he straight up says, I don't want you. He's very blunt.
He's very direct. Like, I saw you whiff out there. I don't want you. I want your sister.
I want her. She begs him to let her pitch for him. So that way he can see what she's got. But he tells her that she ain't got the goods. And then he fills her arm up a little inappropriately. What do you say? So then he tells her if she can get Dottie to go, then she could go too.
It also reminds me of 10 Things I Hate About You, bringing that back around. When Bianca's asking Kat if they can go to the party or if she'll go to the party so she can go to the party.
Good callback. Yeah, it is like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I did some research. So $75 a week in 1943 compared for inflation 80 years later in this year of 2023 and $35 a second.
Okay.
So it's decent. Yeah, a week. That's pretty decent. Actually, I think that's more than I make. So that's pretty damn decent.
Yeah, we all went into the wrong field. We should
I
quit
know.
everything and be baseball players,
Baseball
obviously.
players.
Yeah. I love how we're like, oh, that's okay. Like, and it's way more than what.
I had to remember, I was like, oh no, this is weekly, not bi-weekly.
Yeah.
Especially for each of them. Man, their parents could retire.
Yeah.
Oh, good for them. How did she not jump on that? That's what I want.
I don't, well,
Why was she not into it in the beginning? That's my question.
I think
Like,
it's because she was married and she was so focused on being a wife. And she was like, I know that I want to have kids. I don't want to have this. I'm waiting for my husband to come back from war. Like, that's my main focus. And being part of a baseball team means that there's travel involved. There's so many other demands on you. And so I think it has to do with the fact that she's married, because she brings that up so many times throughout the movie. She's like, I'm a what? I'm a what?
yeah.
Mhm.
And compare that to Kit, who was like, I'm ready to go right now. My suitcase is packed.
She's a single
Right.
Pringle. She's ready to go. God, I feel so bad for
And this must have been before people started stacking Pringles to eat them. Because I'm one of those. I have to have at least 3 for a good Pringle crunch.
Oh my. So while the girls are setting up dinner, Kit's begging her to reconsider. She tells Dottie that she needs to get out of this town because there she is nothing. So Dottie changes her mind. Next, we see they're chasing the train. And they managed to hop on literally a moving train. That was impressive. So they make a stop at Fort Collins, Colorado first to check out another girl, which happens to be Marla, who is batting in a gymnasium. What I don't understand is why they thought it was a good idea to have like a batting session indoors. She breaks like multiple windows in this.
She's like nailing the ball and like breaking windows and keeps having to apologize. And it's like, what? Ever heard of outside? Ever heard of outdoors? Literally just go outside.
Breaking the glass ceiling before there was one. Like,
You're right.
Yes, Marla. Oh my. So her dad introduces her to Ernie, the scout, and he takes one look at her face. This man just makes like he grunts. He's like, ugh. Marla's not the conventional attractive type. So he's like, we're good. We'll think about it. Because she's not as pretty as the other girls. I love it because Dottie and Kit realize that they don't want her because she's not as attractive, quote unquote. And they take a stand. They put their crap down and they're like, we ain't going nowhere. He decides to bring her along. And then Marla has a sweet, tender moment with her father, which I felt like was very sweet. I did love that.
I love Marla's character. I love all the like relationships she has. Like her and her dad, they are very like loving, and he's obviously extremely supportive of her and wants her to do well. And then like later on, she gets a husband, and it's like the sweetest relationship I've ever seen. Like,
So they walk into their first professional stadium and they're just mesmerized. And then Mr. Ernie just drops them off, doesn't say anything. He's just like, okay, bye. It's like toodaloo. One example, one of my favorite lines that he has. He's like, oh, I'm going to go home, have a shave, and then give the wife a little tickle.
Also, by the way, for that person who left the 1 out of 10 review, said it was the no jokes. Is that not a joke, sir? Thank you.
oh my gosh, so good.
Oh, kills me. So we meet May and Doris, who are having a little banter when they see Kit and Dottie staring. They let them know that there will only be 4 teams of 16, so some of them will be going home.
And then May and Doris are Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell. So very iconic for this movie.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Doris ends up throwing a fast one at Dottie and catches it without a glove. And they're very impressed. Doris is just like baffled. She's like, oh my God, how'd you do that? We better go practice.
I love when she throws it, Kit ducks, because it seems like it's coming to Kit. And Kit is like, nope, and ducks. But yeah, Gina Davis, stone face, and she catches it bare hand, no glove.
Mm-hmm. And she's just scowling basically the whole time. She's like, you think that you can get me?
She's a beast, man.
It's pretty badass.
Ever played baseball or softball?
I have. My dad was very big into trying to teach me and my brother how to play baseball. But that kind of backfired on him a couple of times because there would be times when he would pitch to us and me and my brother would swing the bat at it, but the ball came straight back to his glasses and broke them. So,
Oh no, why would you play with glasses? Well, I guess you have no choice. Well, one year I thought I would try out for the softball team. Had no business doing that. I've never played before. It hurt so badly when you would catch it, even with a glove. Like, damn. So to catch it barehanded, girl's a beast.
yeah. And they say that softball actually is harder than baseball. Like it hurts more. Yeah.
I guess it's a bigger ball, I think.
It's big.
I think
I don't know if
so.
that's true.
Yeah.
I think so.
All right. So we cut to a social commentary via the radio stating careers and higher education are leading to the masculinization of women with enormously dangerous consequences to the home, the children, and our country. When our boys come home from the war, what kind of girls will they be coming home to? And the most disgusting example of the sexual confusion, Mr. Harvey presenting women's baseball.
This really, I found it so interesting that like, here we are in 2023, and I think that we're still seeing this public conversation about a very narrow depiction of who a woman is and what she can be and gender. Like I was like, wow, you could hear this on the radio today and like, it wouldn't be that out of place, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just about to say that same thing. Is like, there are still people who think like this and still believe this to be true. And like, I'm all for women leading whatever life they want to. That's what I believe feminism is, allowing every single woman and person to be able to live the life that they want to and not really impede on each other. But when you have commentary like this, I'm just like, all right, you're only allowing for so many options, and that's a problem.
Alrighty, so tryouts begin. We get a little montage of them, I don't know, throwing balls, running bases.
This is the not sport. This is Celeste and I not sporting.
There was some
throwing balls is accurate.
They're pitching to one another. They're doing slides. They're doing a bunch of catches and different batting techniques. And that's about all I got. So.
Yeah. Oh my. So both and Dottie Kit end up making the team of the Rockford Peaches. Let's see. So they are the first members of the All-American Girls Baseball. So Mr. Lowenstein comes out and presents the uniforms that they have to wear. And he tells them that they are going to have to go to both beauty and charm school, because everyone in this league is going to be a lady.
Which is hilarious.
I know, are a joke. They're like in these mini skirts. It's that's graceful what they have to wear. Oh man. So in school, they practice how to things like drink properly, work on their posture, how to walk properly with grace, etc.
They also do makeovers. They look at each one of them. They're like, all right, there should be 2 eyebrows.
Some of them are like, very nice. And then poor Marla, like ever the butt of the joke, is like, what do you suggest? A lot of night games.
And that's not even the end of it either. Like, we get some more jokes about it as we continue on.
Oh my. So Mr. Harvey gives ex-famous baseball player Jimmy Dugan the job of managing the girls team. He is not thrilled about it at all. Apparently he ruined his career by being a drunk. So he is now the new manager. Basically, he just needs to go out there and just like say hello to the fans, and that's pretty much all he's doing. So all the girls are getting ready in their locker room before their first game, and Jimmy comes in totally plastered. And then he takes the world's longest piss.
Timed. This is 53 seconds.
Timed by May, all the way May herself.
Yes.
I love how when like all the girls, like they're shocked because he's pissing right in front of them, and she just like goes forward and is like taking a little peek-see. Like she is not phased.
Yeah,
even a little bit.
Nope. I'm wondering, like, what are some of the fetishes she might be in? I'm like, I believe there's one along this line.
So Dottie takes charge and creates a lineup for them. So, of course, the crowd, well, very few of them are there. They're catcalling and they're laughing at them. So they're just having to smile, wave, and just take it.
What I love is like during the scene, there's that guy who gets up on the wall and he's being an asshole about it. But then one of the girls, she takes a baseball because they're practicing their throws and she just chucks it right at him and he falls over and everybody starts laughing. And she's like, what? It slipped.
My question is like, are we to believe people have bought tickets just to like be jerks? It's like, oh, I came to see this team just so I can like laugh at them and like belittle them. Like, why are you here if you're not a fan?
Right.
I don't put it above people to do that, honestly.
That's true. Fair.
There are hecklers and they still buy tickets to comedy shows just to make fun of people.
Right?
So
Fair.
Business is business. So Dottie hits a home run and they win their game. And then we've got another news segment showing that the girls can both play baseball and maintain their womanly duties.
they say something along like, this woman can make coffee.
He's like pouring it for like the umpire in like a
Yes.
ornate little
Silver pot or something. Oh, and then this is where they got Marla in the outfield. They're like, and Marla, what a hitter. She's so far out there. You can't even see her.
And Marla.
Yes.
What a hitter. Poor Marla. And then they cut to Dottie. I mentioned that she's got what a looker she is, but too bad, boys. She's got a husband. And then they cut to Kit.
Yeah.
Kit is as single as they come.
I have a feeling like they must not have known the script of this commercial because like the way that they interact and then the voiceover over it do not match.
No.
Oh, but there's the other one who's knitting. They're like, oh, this woman's knitting while she's in the dugout. So many different things.
Oh, so bad. So they win another game. After the game, Evelyn approaches Jimmy to ask him if she can bring her son with them on the road because her husband says she can't leave their son with him anymore. He cannot take care of his own child.
Also, I don't know if you've ever seen Monk. So the woman who plays Evelyn is Sharona in Monk, and she's phenomenal.
Oh, you're right.
I love seeing her in anything. But her son is a monster in this. Stillwell. What kind of a name is Stillwell?
Stillwell.
But he is a monster.
Yes. Oh, I know. She's like, he's the sweetest little boy. Cut to them on the bus traveling, causing total havoc on the bus. He literally causes the bus driver to quit.
Because he puts his hands over his eyes. I don't.
On the bus. Is that like their chaperone? Yes, right? That's her chaperone. So she's chasing the bus driver down and he literally throws dirt at her face.
So mean.
I was like, what the hell? Like, what? Oh, man. So I think Jimmy ends up driving the bus. So they get to their first place.
Drunk, by the way. He wakes up drunk and starts making out with the chaperone, whose name, unfortunately, I can't remember. But I sat there and I watched it last night and I was like, you know what? Every time I wake up, too, I'm just making out with the air.
And getting behind the wheel of a bus drunk and then insulting this woman and referencing Wizard of Oz. A lot happening in like 40 seconds.
Going on, yeah. Evelyn's son, because she's done with him with a bat. She's
One of the other girls is like, use my bat, it's heavier. They're all over Stillwell. Stillwell is a monster. And then the way that Evelyn brings him in, she's like, Stillwell, I have another chocolate bar for you. And he stops immediately in his tracks and like runs back to her while he has chocolate on his face. Like,
oh, man, like a dog, man.
A lot of questions about her parenting.
She did the best she could do in that situation.
Fair.
oh my gosh.
Oh, man. So the girls want to sneak out that night. So May ends up poisoning their poor chaperone. Poor woman is literally vomiting her guts out. Here they go.
Even the doctor is like, I've never seen somebody throw up that much.
I was surprised because even Jimmy was being considerate and thoughtful.
Yeah, she was really getting sick.
I know.
This poor woman.
I know. They go out, sneak out to go dancing. And
This is some amazing dancing, by the way. This is
It is
swing dancing
yeah.
at the height of it. Oh, I love it so much. I'm also convinced that Rosie O'Donnell is in love with Madonna in this scene
yes.
because of how like she dances with her and their origin story too. But we can continue on.
No, go ahead. Yeah, they are getting down. It is.
There's definitely some undertones to a lot of their relationship and a lot in this movie. Although I will say May, it's like I don't know the word for it, but she's like one of like a professional, like attendance, a dance girl. So I guess that's why she's like a very good dancer. She really shines on that dance floor. Swing dancing, you forget how like, I don't know how old you two are, but when it had the resurgence in the 90s, it's like, I remember, like I get why this was something people really were taken by.
It's so cool. But I tell you what, I don't think I could ever trust somebody to fling me around like that. Like, toss me around there. I do West Coast swing sometimes. And the second that somebody starts to dip me, I'm like, oh God, what's happening?
It would take some serious trust to let someone swing you around like that, for sure.
Oh my gosh.
And then we've got Marla over here. So Dottie comes in to let everybody know that Mr. Lowenstein is on his way. So everybody's leaving. And then she's like, where's Marla? And Marla's drunk AF. She is serenading this man with a song, like some random guy.
And it's like, it should have been you. It's gotta be you. And so on and so forth. And she is off key, and the jazz band behind her are tired of her. But it's just so sweet because this guy is so infatuated with her, and she's so infatuated back. And she's like, I'm just singing to my baby.
Ain't I, baby? You sure are, sweetie.
Yes. It was intense. She did not break eye contact.
Oh, no. Like the whole rest of the world faded away outside of them too. You could see it in their eyes.
I will say, like, Marla is the butt of the joke in a lot of the movie, but I do like that ultimately the universe of the film is like sweet to her, rewards her, gives her a good arc, fills her life with men who like treat her tenderly and kindly. Like, she's the butt of the joke on the surface, but a little lower. It's like, this is a movie that treats her very tenderly, which I like.
Yeah, I think that's part of the theme of the movie too. It's like all of the women have their own like growth in arc throughout the movie to realize what's best for themselves and being able to grow out of what their former shell was and be able to have these great relationships and partnerships with each other, as well as with some additional people in their lives, and being able to really stand up for themselves and really continue on and have these amazing, impactful careers in baseball.
Love it. Alrighty, so next game, Jimmy's finally starting to show some interest in what the girls are doing. I think one of the last ones, Mr. Lowenstein commented, I really loved the part when you were scratching your balls for an hour. So he's starting to... So Marla's up to bat, and Dottie and Jimmy have, I'm going to call it a gesture off. I'm not sure what they're doing. They're like sending some kind of signal on how to bat.
Yeah. And they're like shoulder to shoulder, chin, like nose, hat swipe,
all that stuff.
I don't know how people understand what those are. I'm just like, oh gosh, how many signals do you have to have?
Yeah.
You have to be in it to know it. Yeah.
There's got to be a better way to communicate to the players. I'm no athlete, but there has to be.
What? They were like 10 feet away from her. They couldn't just verbally communicate. Well, I guess
no, because then the other team would hear it.
Oh,
yeah.
What, does the other team not know the gestures also?
Yeah, no, you make up your own gestures depending on your team. So it's very similar to like football. No, it's like how a quarterback in football will call out like a set of numbers or a set of words, and that means something to his teammates on how they're going to run the route. So it's very similar to that in baseball too, where you have your certain gestures, and it's like you're gonna bat high, you're gonna bat low, you're gonna put it in between the second and third baseman, stuff like that. So it's very similar in that vein. And you obviously don't want the other team to hear, because otherwise they'll get in on the plan and they'll thwart you.
Oh my. At the end of the game, he yells at poor Evelyn. He's like, what team do you play for? And she's like, well, for the peaches. He just starts yelling at her because she's doing something wrong. She starts crying, poor thing. And then we get that iconic line, there's no crying in baseball.
There's no crying in baseball. And he says it probably 3 or 4 times at least.
Yeah.
Giving that line, did he know it will become such an iconic line for the movie?
Probably not.
According
never
to
know.
trivia, he didn't. Like, originally that line wasn't supposed to be in there, and they added it back.
Oh.
And yeah,
Was it
and
like
so
improv?
then it became that. From what I understand, like, it was originally in the script. They took it out, but then they put it back in, and they didn't realize that it was going to become this iconic line. I did a lot of trivia research before this. While I was watching it, I was like, boom.
There's a lot. There's a lot of interesting
so much.
on the behind the scenes
Yeah.
of this movie. It's so fun. So they're having an issue with people not showing up to watch them play. So they're threatening to shut them down. Mr. Lowenstein lets them know that they brought in a reporter specifically to do a story on Dottie in hopes that it'll attract crowds. And then poor Kit, again, she gets another blow. She's like, well, did you tell them about me? And he's like, oh, yeah, I told them how they didn't want you at first unless your sister came. You can just see how, like, awkward everyone feels. Like, everybody's faces are just, oh.
But I feel like at this point, Kit's got to know, like she's setting herself up for that one at this point. Like, she's got to have a sense.
Okay, thank you. Because there were times where I'm like, girl, just shut it.
Yeah, I think
that out,
I
Kit.
had so much empathy for you, Karen.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where she's just like so adamant about not being the lesser sister, and yet like she feels like she's always competing, and it's like, you don't have to. Dottie doesn't care that much. You're competing with yourself here.
Right.
Exactly. Okay, so during this game, Dottie decides to do a very impressive splits catch. And then, of course, that attracts the reporters and they catch some photos.
So Gina Davis actually did the splits for that. Like, she actually did that move, but she did not pop back up. She's like, nope, I definitely needed some help.
I don't blame her. That's a dress. Like, it's hard scratched up their legs. Like, ooh, no, not in that outfit. So the story on Dottie was a success, and it is drawing in big crowds. One of the newspaper headlines was trading in other mitts for baseball mitts. So they're starting to draw in people also from the Black community. Of course, they are separated, and there's a moment when one of the balls goes to the side of the field, and a Black woman throws it back to them. She has a great arm on him, so there's like that connection there for the Black community.
I always loved that scene, how like the look that the Black woman gives her, like, yeah, I know, I've got an arm, I could be out there. Yeah, that scene always really got me in the feels.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I understand, this is an homage to the fact that when they were putting together the girls' baseball teams, they unfortunately separated Black people and white people, and Black women were not allowed to play in the all-girls baseball league. Very similar to regular baseball of the time. Like, they had separate leagues for the Black community and for the white community. Only the white community was ever really recognized until, like, I can't remember, Jackie Robinson. That's what his name is. And some others who helped to break that color barrier.
Have you all seen a show with, is it Abby Jacobson from Broad City? A League of Their Own show?
Oh, no, but I've been wanting to.
Okay.
It's on Amazon.
It's a little bit more like they play with the demographics in a way that's fun. So like, if ever wanting to see a what if universe, a League of Their Own universe where it is a little bit more diverse, check out the show.
Oh,
Definitely.
Alrighty, so we're going over a series of games now. They're doing really great. Marley gets married. So happy for her.
What I don't understand, though, is why she got married in the middle of the season. Like, why didn't she wait until after the season was over?
They just couldn't wait. That passion was too strong because they passed on it.
Passion was running very
gosh.
hot.
Yes.
Yeah. And at the end, like the girls are all at the wedding and they've got their baseball bats creating like a tunnel. And then they're like, see you next season, Marla. I'm like, why didn't you wait?
And then to send them off, they all throw balls at their little getting married vehicle. Which I was
Seems
like,
dangerous,
that's a bit
but
risky. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
like, you're gonna have a few dents there, but
It's like we already know that Marla broke several windows. Like we don't need a car broken either.
they're keeping the trend going. So we're going over a few series of games. They're drawing in massive crowds. And then Dottie and Jimmy start to get to know each other on a personal level. Talks about her husband and how she does not plan on continuing playing after her husband gets back. Of course, Jimmy is very confused by that. He's like, doesn't he know how good of a player you are? And then next game, we've got Kit, who is pitching, and she gets to a point where she's not doing so hot. Jimmy asks what Dottie thinks, and she tells him that she's done. She's not throwing good ones anymore. So Kit is out of there.
And she's pissed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. Mr. Harvey goes to the game and lets Mr. Lowenstein know that they won't be needing the girls next year because they're winning the war and the boys will be back to play. Mr. Lowenstein asks Mr. Harvey if he can take over the league because he believes in these girls and he knows how hard that they've been working for this. But he ain't having it either. He's like, we don't need these girls. We've got the boys coming back. We're good. So, as you said, Kit's pissed that she wasn't able to finish the game, and she ends up getting to a physical fight with Doris. She ends up expressing her frustration to Dottie. Again, she feels like she's living in her shadow. She's like, I can't explain it. I don't understand. I'm just so mad. So that night, Dottie's kind of sitting in the locker room by herself, and she makes the decision to leave the team. She's packing up. She's like, I gotta go. So Mr. Lowenstein comes in. He's like, this couldn't come at a worse time. He's trying to talk her out of it. And he's like, what can we do? Like, can we do a transfer? And she's like, yeah, let's do a transfer, whatever. So the girls are at, like, are they renting out like whole houses or are these hotels? Like,
I think it's a house.
Like,
Yeah.
It's reminds me of like a sorority house.
yeah, it does, right? So the girls are back at their house. Kit comes in and she throws a ball right out the window, right past Dottie's head. She is pissed. She's fuming. Turns out that Kit was the one that was traded to be on a different team. Dottie, of course, confused. She's like, oh my God, that wasn't supposed to happen. That was supposed to be me. Of course, the girls are eavesdropping outside. Doris is literally saying everything verbatim for what they're saying.
Love Doris.
She's hilarious. So I didn't realize that when it came to the World Series, I thought it was one game, but I guess it's multiple games.
Mm-hmm.
I was very
It's like 7 games. It's best out of 7, or it's like
confused.
whoever gets like 4 out of 7.
Online. Yeah, I tried looking it up online, and it wasn't a specific amount.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even just that. Like you have to do like 7 games in order to like move on to the next like racket or something like that, rack of teams. And then you go head to head for another like 7 games, and then you do it again until you have the last 2 teams that have become best of 7 against all these different racket. That's the word I was looking for, not racket.
Can you tell we're all sports experts?
Yeah.
We're such sports experts. That is my motto, is we don't sport. This is the very bare minimum that I know. And ironically, so part of the reason why we're doing this movie is because we wanted to get it around when the World Series would happen. And I think the World Series, actually, it starts, I think, tomorrow or something like that after we're recording this. But it ends, I think, on like the 31st of October. And so we wanted to get this done somewhat timely.
Okay. Nice little time peg.
Yeah.
Every time I think of baseball, I always assume that it's around spring training because I remember all the crowds that used to come in. We were at Starbucks. So the Starbucks that we were at was right next to, Peoria Stadium. It's a really popular spot for spring training. And so that's how I always like connect the two. So every time I hear baseball during a different season, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. And then it's February and March.
Yeah. In spring training, there are only two places where teams go to for spring training. So Arizona and Florida. So I think most of the East Coast goes to Florida and most of the Midwest to the West Coast go to Arizona. So like next to Peoria, the Padres and the Mariners and all of them would do their spring training there. But when I used to live in Mesa and I worked at a hotel in Mesa, the Cubs had their spring training there. So lots of people go to all sorts of different like spring training games because they're a lot cheaper and it's totally more fun. But it's still like 100 degrees outside. So I don't understand it.
Not worth it to me.
No.
Sorry, random tangent.
Yeah. It's the next day. Evelyn apparently during this time wrote a song that they are all singing before their game in their locker room. So Jimmy comes in. He's finally hyped up about the games because he just learned on the toilet that he gets a bonus if they make it to the World Series. So he's like, we got to do this, girls. Come on.
Every big scene with him is like toilet related, urine related, like
At least we know that he's not constipated. It's
keeps things moving.
yeah.
No blockage here. So a man comes in with a telegram from the War Department. So everybody knows that this means that someone's husband has passed. This guy is such a tool. He's so inconsiderate. So he's like, oh, I don't have a name on here, so I'm going to have to head back. So Jimmy's like, just give me the telegram. Ends up being for Betty. So unfortunately, her husband passed. They keep going on, so play their game. That evening, Dottie is in her room crying. Earlier, it was mentioned that her husband used to send her a letter every week, but she was a bit concerned because it's been a few weeks since she's received anything. So that evening, Dottie's in her room crying when her husband comes wobbling in. And so they're reunited. And I love her. This woman is so beautiful. And they maintain, like, they're in the most gorgeous nightgowns. Their hair is always done. They've always got full face of makeup. And he's like, I forgot how beautiful you are. And she's like, oh, I look terrible.
You know, this like perfectly pinned, curled hair. Like, she looks like a goddamn angel.
She does.
Right?
She's like, no, I look terrible.
What I also love is that this is Bill Pullman. So anytime that I see him, I'm just like, Mr. President from Independence Day.
Oh, and then you cast her. The dad.
Yes. So I just watched that last night too, and he looks so bad in Casper because his hair is so long, and I don't know why it doesn't match his face. But yeah, my every year is to watch Independence Day on Independence Day. So I love Bill Pullman as the president.
That's probably one of the top 10 movie speeches. Like, this will be our Independence Day. Like, top 10 movie speeches all time.
Yes, absolutely.
So the next morning, Dottie decides to go home with her husband. Jimmy tells her that he thought that she was a ball player and that she will regret quitting for the rest of her life. But she heads out. The team is off to the first ever Women's World Series. So it's the Rockford versus Racine. Is it Racine?
I could not tell you.
Rockford versus Racine, let's say. So Jimmy leads the team in prayer. I thought it was funny because it was after him telling the team that prayer is useless. There's a scene early on. All the girls are praying. He's like, let's get out of here. This is useless. It's not like it works anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But there
and then he also does the like cross against himself, and he's like, he's pointing out to the big man. He's like,
to be safe, Seeds.
He's like, just in case. I don't know.
He's got a bonus on the line. There are no atheists in foxholes.
Oh, man. So the next and final game, Dottie shows up to play. She's already dressed up. So Allison gets booted. He's like, Allison's been playing. She's like, oh.
She looks so happy to be booted.
I know, poor girl. She's been through some shit, she looks like.
I want to know also that, like, we realized that Kit was traded to Racine. And so because it's Rockford versus Racine, this means that Dottie and Kit are going head to head. sister, a sister.
Yeah, that's like some Shakespearean stuff, like tense, taut.
So Evelyn's son continues being a nuisance. And I think one of my favorite parts is when Jimmy throws the glove at his head and it knocks him out. And nobody does anything.
We're thrilled.
Knocked him out. I know. They're like, thank God someone shut him up.
Evelyn just turns to him and she's like, you're okay. Come into the dugout. Like, you're fine. Oh, and Jimmy busts out laughing too, because like Stillwell is stunned and then he falls over and he just busts out. He's like,
We're over the top, bust out laughing. So Kit is pitching. Daddy's up to bat. Tensions are high. And she ends up hitting, I'm going to call it a home run again. And they score multiple points.
I think it's 3.
Yeah, I think it was 3 points. And Kit is literally on the verge of a meltdown. She's like hyperventilating. They're like, you need to pull yourself together, girl. You're about to bat. And when Kit is up to bat next, Dottie tells the pitcher to do high ones because she can't hit them and she can't pass them. And then by some miracle, Kit hits the 3rd pitch. So Kit goes to score the point and ends up making it. But Dottie drops the ball. And the crowds go wild for Kit. So are we saying, I think she dropped it on purpose. Are we in agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the big controversies. And in some of the trivia that I looked up, Gina Davis is like, of course I know whether or not she actually dropped it on purpose. No, I'm never going to tell you.
I feel like that's basically saying, yes, she did.
Right.
So finally, Kit has her moment in the spotlight. People are cheering for her. Mr. Harvey's in the crowd and he tells Mr. Lowenstein that they can go ahead and stick with it. So they're going to keep the girls' baseball team. In the locker room, Dottie and Kit finally reconcile. Dottie offers Kit a ride back home with her and Bob, but she decides to stay. And then on their way out, Jimmy meets Bob finally. And there's a little bit of an awkward moment because it seems like Jimmy has a thing for Dottie, but of course.
Seems like everybody does, honestly.
True. The Diamond Queen, I think that's what they called her. So Dottie and Kit say their goodbyes. They say their little lay off the high ones. I like the high ones. Mule, nag, and they go their separate ways. And then we flashed forward to present day, and Dottie reconnects with the old gang, and they attend a ceremony for officially being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
And then I think we also get like some facts that come across the screen, like Jimmy unfortunately passed away before this happened, so on and so forth. Some facts about Dottie's family and all the girls and like how impactful they were in the sport of baseball. And unfortunately, I think the women's team was dissolved like 20 or 30 years later. So like in like the 60s or 70s, like it didn't last very long.
Well, I should have read I cut it. Thank God you watched it, Kenzie.
I've watched this movie so many times.
And the ending credits is really sweet because it's like they're playing a game of baseball, and it might actually be some of the real people, maybe, question mark.
Yeah.
And the Madonna song is playing, and it's just like, it really packs an emotional punch for me.
It's so good.
Alrighty. So, of course, it passes the Bechdel test. Yay for that.
It would be such a shame if it didn't.
You would make it like, what kind of movie would it be? Like, yeah.
It would kind of defeat it so bad.
All they did is talk about Jimmy. That's it.
You sure peas for a long time, huh?
Did you hear the last one? That one was 43 seconds.
Oh, goodness. So a little bit of trivia about the movie. I think you did mention a couple of them already, Kenzie. During filming of the World Series games, stars took turns entertaining the unpaid extra. Unfortunately, they were not paid, apparently. So Tom Hanks did puppet shows over the dugout. Rosie O'Donnell did stand-up comedy. And various actors pretended to be Madonna and sing some of her songs.
That would be so fun.
That would be amazing. And then for the famous split catch, so yeah, Gina Davis had to use a stunt double to slide into the splits. And as you mentioned, she could do the splits, but she couldn't slide into it.
It is a very one move motion.
Oh, yeah. And many of the injuries and bruises in the film were real injuries that actresses received during filming.
Yeah. There's one where there's the girl who has the gigantic ass bruise all over her thigh. That was a real injury.
So yeah, as you mentioned, the characters at the Baseball Hall of Fame and seen playing as the credits roll are real original players from the league portrayed in the film. And then, speaking of the peeing scene, not even knew when he was going to be done peeing. Penny Marshall was in a stall with a hose and a bucket making noise.
That's hilarious. So Tom Hanks is just tasked with making pee motions and pee like satisfied groans, and he just doesn't even know when it's gonna end. That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Marshall was a genius. You got to give it up for that.
Oh, so good.
Oh my goodness. So yes, as you mentioned, actresses auditioning for the film had to prove that they could play baseball. All of the actresses in the film, apart from Gina Davis, did their own baseball stunts. None of the performers wanted stunt doubles. That is amazing. And then lastly, the studio wanted Jimmy and Dottie to get together. There was even a kiss at one point. Of course, I know. But Penny Marshall didn't want to distract audiences with a love story where the main protagonist cheats on her husband serving overseas. So it was cut to retain the likability for Gina's character, which was the right choice for sure. Sometimes
1,000%
is not necessary in movies. Do you ever see some and you're like, there was no need for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate when I'm watching a show or a movie or something like that. I'm like, this love story has absolutely no point.
Yeah.
Why is it here? Why did you shoehorn this?
And to be fair, there was a love story. It was the love for baseball in this movie, and that was
right.
Fun too. All right. So we're on our caffeine scale. Bridget, do you want to go first as to how stimulated this movie kept you?
On a scale of 1 to 5 espresso shots, I'm going to go a 5. I was riveted. I laughed. I cried. Take that 1 out of 10 reviewer. I found it very entertaining and very stimulating. Still not over that.
I don't think anybody can be. When you have something there are times when Celeste and I read these 1 out of 10s and we're like, did you even watch the movie?
Yeah.
The most iconic is when we did Whale Rider. And the person who did the 1 out of 10 was like, there aren't even any whales in this. I'm like, there's a whale 20 minutes in. What are you talking about?
There was an opening scene. There was a whale.
Did you watch it with a blindfold?
Did you just listen to it? Even then you could still hear whale noises. I'm so confused.
Right? Who the heck knows? These reviewers sometimes.
But Bridget, I'm going to have to agree with you. Definitely a 5. I love watching this movie. I don't know if that was completely apparent, but I think it's fantastic. It's one of those movies that I can watch over and over again because the story is just so good and it just really hits home. I showed this movie to my husband for the very first time and he didn't even know that there was an all-girls baseball league at one point in time, so he got to learn. And I think that's one of the other really great things that movies have the opportunity to do is teach us because there's so much about this world that can be taught, especially through artwork such as movies.
Love it, love it. So I'm going to
What about you?
It was a 5 espresso shot for me. I loved this movie. I'm so sad that it took me this long to watch it. But I'm gonna say no. But I'm glad he did it. So thank you for choosing it, Kenzie.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you liked it.
And yes, I'm right there with Richard. It was educating and it was just such great liners. It was so funny. It was so heartwarming. It was so tender and just a great movie overall. So I'm glad.
Oh, I'm so glad. Like I said, when we did the wedding day, I'm so happy when I can introduce you to a movie that you actually like.
I don't think there have been any that maybe there has been 1 or 2.
Yeah, you didn't really care for Hellboy. So,
Oh, but I had seen that. Yeah.
oh, okay.
I'm good.
You're like, I don't need to watch this again. I love Guillermo del Toro, but not Hellboy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a one and done for me too.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Bridget, for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and we really enjoyed, or at least I enjoyed, I'm going to let Celeste speak for herself.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed your take and having you join us today. Loved everything you had to bring to this.
Thank you so much. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead. I'm so sorry. I was just going to agree with her. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us for this. It was such a blast.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine. This was a 5 espresso shots on the stimulation scale. You all are really engaging. You are in the right field as podcasters. Like I do interviews or like podcasts like this all the time, and it's not often that they feel so like, I don't know, engaging and stimulating and connected. So yeah, you all are really doing it right. 5 out of 5
my
for
gosh.
the
That
show.
means so much. Yeah.
I really mean it.
With your history and your professionalism like that,
Oh.
it's such a high bar for me. And I'm so like honored and aghast.
Gosh, well, the pleasure has been all mine. I really mean it.
Thank you.
So do you want to plug your pluggables there, Bridget?
Sure. If folks want to hear more from me, you can check out my podcast on iHeartRadio called There Are No Girls on the Internet. You can find my podcast that I make with Mozilla called IRL, where we are exploring ethics in AI. And you can follow me on Instagram at Bridget Murray in DC.
Thank you. Really appreciate you.
My
Okay. Thank you for listening to another episode of Caffeinated Flicks. We're a self-published podcast produced and edited by Kenzie.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what films you'd like us to cover, what we can do better, or just say hi.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at caffeinatedflickspod or email us at caffeinatedflicks@gmail.com. We'll catch you on the flick side.